everyone, and welcome to an SDGC interview. We are very excited about this because we have joining us today Ben Starr, who is the voice of Clive Rosfield in Final Fantasy 16. Now, this is something that we've all been very excited about for some time. Anybody who knows us knows that we hate Final Fantasy games, and we never
can't
play
stand them.
So really,
I definitely need a whiteboard behind me for how far into the podcast we can make it every episode without Final Fantasy coming up, so that I can dramatically wipe it clean every time.
So I should just mention Final Fantasy 6 now, so we get it out of the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
All
I mean,
right,
I'm the only one wearing a shirt repping.
Okay,
I only just noticed that.
I thought you were going to say I'm the only one wearing a shirt, and I was like, that is
the bulb kind of takes
true.
away from the
Hold on.
the rest of everything else.
There we go. Yeah. Anyway, let's focus on Ben Starr.
Ben, how are you, man?
I'm really well. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Like this is a great honor for us. And I know that you must be busy. So taking time out to kind of hang out with the little people is just much appreciated. Thank you so much for this.
Well, again, it's been really lovely that people want to reach out and talk to me. I've kind of been in secret, not being able to talk to anyone about this for such a long time. And considering I'm such a fan of the series, it's a very surreal thing to just kind of sit hiding in, like, I'm just watching people on the internet talk about it and speculate and stuff. And I kind of want to engage with the community. So when, opportunities like this come up, I'm like, yeah, it's a cool thing to do. So thank you for having me.
So
Yeah.
like, it must have been, and I'll just go ahead and say it must have been so difficult, like doing all the voice work for Clive. I don't know how long it took you. Obviously, probably a long time, and just like being under a gag order, essentially, right? Like you just can't talk about it, and I can't imagine how wrenching that must have been.
Yeah, it was quite kind of scary. Actually, I would say that when I got the part, I didn't know what I was auditioning for when I went up for it, and then when I got the offer through, I saw some kind of keywords in the description, and I went, "Is this Final Fantasy 16?" And I couldn't really believe it at the time, and I was both elated and just so disappointed because I found out exactly what was going to happen in the next Final Fantasy game, and it was that. And honestly, for the first few months of recording, I kept thinking, oh, they're just going to give this to someone else. They're just going to give this part to someone else. I'm not very good. I can't believe. I felt like a complete imposter, and I just thought the worst thing's going to happen is I'm going to know exactly what's happened in Final Fantasy 16, and they're going to fire me as well. And so I just thought it was this like whirlwind of emotions of like that's what's going to happen to you, Ben. You don't deserve this. This is ridiculous, because I just felt like a competition winner, like someone had the weird thing of me just being such a huge fan for so many years, and then out of nowhere just being told, oh, by the way, you're the lead in the new one. That's a very strange thing that I still haven't really got my head around.
So what you're saying is you went from a Ben imposter to a Ben Starr.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Wow, Finn, wow, that was.
You can't be feeling too bad. He's back on the punch train already.
I actually had another one. I was like, so how does it feel to have the echo grass so you can finally speak again about, I was gonna Final Fantasy it
That's
up
not
a bit,
good, Finn.
but
I love you.
hey,
That's not good.
Hey,
It's not good. It's not
hey,
great.
they can't all be winners, okay?
It's not great. Well, I actually, I've got a let's kick this off for real. Like, Ben, obviously this is a huge role for you, but I'm curious as to how you got your start in voice acting. Like where did this all begin for you?
Yeah, what is your Final Fantasy origins?
Thank you. These are really good. Just keep them coming, Finn. I voice acting. People have asked me, like, how do you get into it? I genuinely don't know, and that is a really weird thing to say because I didn't start as a voice actor. I trained as a stage actor at a place called Lambda in London. And I always thought I was going to go on the stage, just dreams of doing Shakespeare and touring the world with the RSC. That's kind of what I expected my career to be, or hoped my career would be. And then I ended up just not doing that. I ended up doing lots of like fun television stuff. And I kind of spent years not acting, because when you graduate, they just kind of you spend 2-3 years into a drama school where it's just so your entire day is planned out for you, and then they just spit you out into the world and they go, here is unemployment until you find it, and it's a really terrifying thing, and you spend so much time not acting. And there are obviously the people that go on and are really, really successful, but I spent 3 years doing bar work, catering, all of that stuff, and then I managed to land a TV role on a show, and then that led to another one and another one and another one, and it meant that I didn't have to do side work. And then at the same time, there was this opportunity just to kind of like go up for some video games, and I've done a couple, but I hadn't really done many, and I just kept auditioning, and every now and again I would do a voice here or there. It was a nice kind of like side hustle, and then this happened, and they weren't auditioning actually voice actors for it. They were auditioning actors in general. It wasn't kind of like a specialist audition. It was just they really wanted to kind of get that pedigree in. Not saying that voice actors aren't all fantastic, but they kind of really cast the net wider. And I think that's really how it happened for me. And kind of here I am. And I love video games. I've spent so much of my life voicing them when I'm playing them, just kind of impersonating.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all do it. And that is just it's been a really, really fun thing. But yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Awesome.
Now, we also know, to our eternal delight, that you are in fact a diehard Final Fantasy fan yourself. So much like what is your origin of your voice acting career and just your acting career in general, what is your origin in gaming in Final Fantasy? Like, how did you get stumbled into that?
So I was born in 1988, and so if that kind of charts,
so old,
but that charts where I would enter the series, right? So I came into it around the first one I played was 8, and then it was
I'm 89,
9.
so I get you.
Yeah, it's like 8, 9, then 7, and then I played 6, and then like around that PlayStation era where they were re-releasing the old Nintendo games on PlayStation. So I've got, in the UK they had something called Final Fantasy Origins and Final Fantasy Anthology.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I had those, and I played those on PlayStation. And there was, I think in the UK, 6 came with a demo for 10 as well. So when they released
combo.
it, I think that happened. I mean, I'm sure someone's going to go, "That's completely incorrect, Ben. You're lying." But
Gamers would never. Are you kidding?
Absolutely.
I would imagine no one's going to correct me on that.
I'm DMing you right now.
Good thing
Very
we're not
angrily.
live, so the chat may be going on the side as people watch this, but they can't actually talk to us.
Yes, thank you so much. I was correct. Wow.
Take that, chat.
Yeah, I got him. Sorry. So my story started on the PlayStation 1, and it just continued. I think Final Fantasy was my way into video games, really. I was so fortunate to get into the series when I did at that point, because I'd never played anything like it. And for me, video games at that point, you could probably complete a game in 5-6 hours. They were quite simple at that point. It was, the game I played before Final Fantasy VIII was like the Tomorrow Never Dies game, and like maybe the opening level of Siphon Filter and Maria Sharapova's Smash Court Tennis. Like that was.
Hey, that's a Stone Cold classic.
It is a classic. Honestly, go back. That holds up. That is a true successor to Pong. But it was 8, and the fact that it came on multiple discs, the fact that it was as long as a novel. I mean, as a 10-year-old, I spent 111 hours playing Final Fantasy VIII. Like that was unheard
So
of.
it sounds like you did everything. You went down and fought, a mega weapon, like at the very bottom. I can't remember what the place is called, but what the hell's the name of that
facility?
You got it. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. See,
so,
Ben's legit.
One could say that Final Fantasy VIII was at a critical junction in your life.
Oh my God! Right. Shut up, Finn.
Yeah.
I will say it was tremendously endearing hearing from Alex Donaldson over at RPG Site. I suppose you did an interview with them, and hearing that you were such a Final Fantasy fan that like you were in the weeds and had opinions on like FF8's like leveling mechanics, and I was like, when you've got somebody who is that in the weeds, that's a real fan, and that's you
Derek's
don't have
got opinions
to be,
all day about that.
I've got
system.
opinions all day about it. I love FF8, even if it is a mixed bag, but you don't necessarily have to be a fan to be an incredible actor in something. You know, I don't believe in gatekeeping the series that way, but like, it is also really cool to see people who are huge fans and have that history with the franchise get not just roles, but leading roles in these kinds of games. I just think that's incredible and very endearing to me.
I think that it's clearly a series that has an incredible diehard fandom. You know, people who've grown up with the series who they identify with so many of the amazing characters that have, you know, appeared in these in this amazing series. And the fact is that I feel fortunate enough to now engage with the community in a different way than I would have done before. Like, I remember going to, maybe like 10 years ago or something, like an IGN at the time, they released tickets in the UK to go and like play Lightning Returns early.
Oh, I remember that.
Like,
I remember that.
And I was like, I'm gonna go. And I went with my friend, you know, queuing up with all of us just big Final Fantasy nerds and just like going along and playing this game. And the fact that I'm here now on the other end, in like seeing how the sausage is made, it's really fun, and I can't wait to hang out with more people that love the series in the way that I do. And my job basically becomes my hobby, and that's amazing.
Ben, I completely understand where you're coming from. When I was a teenager, I was about 14 years old when Final Fantasy VI first came out, and without getting into too much of the dark stuff, like, that game saved my life. I had kind of a rough childhood growing up, and that game literally probably saved me. And so that began like basically a lifelong love of Final Fantasy, and just like, you know, Square in general. And so as a kid, I never imagined that I would one day be, you know, a sponsored content creator for Square. And it blows my mind. And I can imagine that you must feel the same way. Like, you know, thinking about that 10-year-old playing Final Fantasy VIII, you're like, who you could never have guessed, like, one day I'm going to be actually involved in creating this. Like, that just must be a complete, like, doesn't that just blow your mind?
Yes, all the time, and it doesn't make sense. I'm having an out-of-body experience right now. I'm not me. It's genuinely really weird, because I used to name all of the characters after myself. So
Yes.
How could you not?
Yeah.
I never do that. I never did that.
Ben, do you ever go back to like old saves and be like, wow, look who my friends were at the time, like who you named, like, and you always knew who your crush was because that's what you named, like, every time.
Why would you target me like this, Finn?
Finn, I've got you. I've got it too. Claire Davies at the time. I named Renault as Claire, and but I didn't name them. This is awful. But here you go. I didn't name them me. I for whatever reason, I named Squall Starry, as in my surname with a Y on the end, and I just thought, that's what I'm going to do. His name's Starry, and so then Final Fantasy IX, he was Starry with an I. And then Final Fantasy VII, he was, this is really good, clever Ben, Starry 2. And then Tidus was Stazzy. I don't know why, but he was.
Well, they can't all cross over if they have the exact same name. So,
you know, go ahead, Finn. No, please.
No, I had literally nothing of substance.
Okay. Well, what else is new? So I'm kidding, Finn. I
removing
love
you from the call. John.
I love you. No, I actually had an idea. Like, I feel like there's some. I was talking about this on Twitter the other day, but I feel like there's some Final Fantasy VIII merchandise that is just a gold mine waiting to be created, and it's a handheld mirror that says "You're the best looking person here." But when you look in the mirror, you're just a mass of jumbled up pixels. It just completely pixelizes and messes up your face. And I feel like Square, you're sitting on a gold mine. This is an oil well that has yet to be tapped. Contact me. I've got all kinds of merchandise ideas. This is good stuff.
Anyone from Square Enix listening right now, we've got loads of ideas here, guys.
Please.
This is a gold mine right now.
Please.
That little official music box that plays Eyes on Me, though, is definitely like, I'm gonna break and get that for sure. So
Right. No, I wanted to jump in and since we now know Ben's starting point, to give him context, I thought it'd be cool if all of us just kind of chime in with what our first Final Fantasy was. So I wanna like Britt. Where'd you jump in?
So I watched my brother play the demo of 7. And that was kind of like, he was like, oh, Final Fantasy is so cool. And I don't remember how old I was young at the time, but, I was just like, I don't get why this is such a big deal. Like, there's 7 of them. What could you possibly make over and over again that's cool? And then, that was my intro to video games, was watching my brother play video games. So he would love to hear me gloat about this right now. He would just eat it up. But then I got Final Fantasy IX for Christmas one time, and I just fell in love. Before that, I had played Chrono Cross, and so that was like my first deep dive into RPGs. And then my brother was like, well, if you like this, they got a new Final Fantasy coming out. So I played Final Fantasy IX, and it was the cutest, loveliest little game, and it just hooked me from there. And every single time I've played Final Fantasy ever since they released.
Do you think that like Final Fantasy IX, I think is the most, in inverted commas, magical?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
It just has this innocence and this incredible. It just hits you like a freight train when it hits you like a freight. But like there is just something so whimsical about it. Even the fact the opening music, I just go back to and listen to it every now and again.
Exactly.
Was it like a pipe or a flute that they play?
Yeah, it's like a flute. Yeah.
There's a sort of beautiful, painful nostalgia to it in a lot of ways.
I actually, I refer to Final Fantasy IX as the Pixar movie of Final Fantasy games.
I was just about to say, like, Pixar, if Pixar makes it.
Like
it's so cute,
it's bright and cute and whimsical, but also like it's really sad,
really emotionally mature, and really like I learned things as a youngin playing that game. So
like VV on the inside,
like learning the truth about the Black Mage Village gave me the same feeling as I had at the beginning of Finding Nemo. Like I was like, oh man, I was like, I wasn't prepared for this. Like I wasn't ready. You gotta warn me.
It's funny because it's one of those games that a lot of people don't play because they're like, oh, it's so childish. It looks like they look like kids. And I'm like, well,
your loss.
Yeah.
Well, I did a tweet the other day, which was just like me loving the Alexander of Alexandria fight. And I tweeted it. And I think, because there are all these rumors about Final Fantasy IX were coming out and people are like, 9 remake confirmed.
Yeah.
Like, no,
I just like 9, guys.
Yeah.
See, Ben, that's the curse.
Yeah, this is going to follow you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You can never say anything about Final Fantasy without people going into spec mode.
If you were to tweet tomorrow, like, man, I really love Final Fantasy Tactics, people are going to be like, oh my God, it was on the NVIDIA leak. I told you. Like,
if you really want to burn it all down, you should just tweet, hey, I've been really enjoying Super Smash Brothers lately, and then end with like a winky face emoji, and just
listen. I think Clive for Smash. Let's make it Clive for Smash right now. He's done. He's absolutely done.
I think that would be great. That would be fantastic.
Wait, no, even better. Even better, because it's a PlayStation 5 game. I really think there should be a PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale 2. Clive would be perfect for it, and then just walk away.
For a month,
it's
right?
just starting a fire at Playstation HQ.
That would. Can you, like, if you did that? First of all, I'm going to recommend you don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Finn is giving you terrible advice. Not that you take it, but please, I have to make sure. Don't absolutely.
The problem with Finn having experience in gaming PR is that Finn knows exactly how to cause the most trouble possible.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
So Derek, segueing right back into you, what was your first Final Fantasy game?
So, actually, like, wildly, my first Final Fantasy was the original. I played not well, the very first on the NES. My dad had an NES. I was born in 91. So, it was obviously well after that point, that I got to play it, but, I played it. I liked it. I didn't totally vibe with it, just because I was young and it wasn't my first RPG. Like, I had played Pokemon, I had played Dragon Quest Monsters, so I was familiar with the concept, but Final Fantasy 1's rough to go back to, especially if you're not experienced with those sort of games. But later, I think in like 2000-ish, we would get a PlayStation 1, and we got a couple games with it. And Final Fantasy 8 and Final Fantasy 9, we got both of those. And I played 8 before I played 9, just because it was like these people look more normal and cool, and you know, I was 9, I didn't know what I was doing, but like deeply loved Final Fantasy 8, and then to finish 8 and move on to 9, like that 1-2 punch that sealed it for me. I was a Final Fantasy fan for life. So,
John,
did you ever do this thing where with friends you would play each other? So I had like because you know you're young and whatever, you have friends who were also playing alongside of you. There were sections of Final Fantasy 8 and 9 and 10 where we'd go around to, like, if I knew something was coming up, I'd go around to my friend's house and we'd play like different sections and like help each other out with it.
Yes.
Did you ever do that?
A couple times.
Isn't 9 like a 2-player as well? You can play 9.
And sometimes I would plug and I would let my little brother control like Vivian Steiner. Yeah. So
it's so cool.
It's not a great way to do multiplayer, but you know, it's a cool idea.
There's that iconic scene, I think it's in Jurassic Park, The Lost World, where they're playing 2-player Final Fantasy 8.
Yeah.
They're in that, which I really, really love. They're like, oh my God, I'm going to get you. And it's like they're just fighting the big dinosaur.
It's got that same energy about from, I can't remember the show, but he's like, nobody at school believes I beat Sub-Zero. And the dad's like, well, that's impossible. Nobody beats Sub-Zero. It's like it's just like, man, what a but no, Finn, to answer your question, my first Final Fantasy was the first one on NES, but I didn't actually realize what this medium could be until I played Final Fantasy VI. You know, because, and I was already big into video games at that point, but Final Fantasy VI was kind of the game where, if you think about it, up to that point, it had, I considered to be the darkest, most mature storyline in the medium up to that point. I mean, with Final Fantasy VI, you dealt with murder, genocide, teen pregnancy, depression, and suicide. And, you know, for something that was 16-bit and pixelated, like that was unheard of. And so that was the game that really showed me the power, or the potential power, of this medium. And to kind of look back through the years and see how, like, you can see the DNA of Final Fantasy VI in so many RPGs today. And I never could have imagined the legacy that game would have, not just for me, but for the medium in general. And so, like, for as far as my gaming tastes are concerned, like Final Fantasy, like the first one I played was the one on NES, but Final Fantasy VI was the most formative game for me in regards to what I like to play, if that makes any sense.
Do you all think that it's the one that we talked that's the most formative is what you would then consider to be your favorite? So, Britt, would you be like, 9 is my favorite?
Oh, yeah, 9 is my favorite, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard for me because, like, I think if you ask me to say, like, my favorites, it's like, I 6, 9, 12, maybe 5. I just love 5's job system. And like 8 is obvious. I would say really my first real Final Fantasy, because I just didn't spend that much time with 1. But I hesitate to call 8 my favorite. But at the same time, like I will stand no 8 disrespect, because just because there's some issues with the junction and draw system doesn't mean that it doesn't have incredible characters, incredible music, incredible story beats. You know. I will always stand for the fact that 8 has probably the most realistic teenage cast of any RPG.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, and that's just why people hate it, is because they're teenagers, but like they're teenagers. That's the point. You know, teenagers are kind of emotionally, you know, still figuring things out in the world.
You know what?
So,
I think Ben has a very good point, because my answer is I'm actually just a carbon copy of John, which is weird because as the youngest member of SDGC, proudly representing Gen Z,
you are not
born in 1984. You know, the youngest 1984 person around. My first game was Final Fantasy 1, and as you mentioned before, I played it with a friend. I didn't have Final Fantasy as a kid, but my best friend in grade school did, and so I would spend every weekend at his house and we would play. We had the Nintendo Power guidebook, and we were both just in first grade, so we were like 6 or 7, and we spent months beating this game and just loving it. And then we went to Dragon Warrior 4 because it wasn't Dragon Quest yet, but it was, and then I never played another Final Fantasy. I missed 4 or 2, and it wasn't until Super Nintendo that I played Final Fantasy 3/6 that I became absolutely obsessed, and it is still my favorite Final Fantasy, and still my favorite game. 6 was the formative game for me, and went from something I enjoyed playing when I was 7 to my favorite genre of all time. So same trajectory basically as John. So cool.
It's funny. It's like all those memes where it's like you play something and you're like, well, this is going to be my entire personality for the rest of my life.
This is me. So Ben, to get back to you and just the topic at hand. So Final Fantasy 16, Clive, it's finally coming out. Like, how does it feel knowing that you've been there since the beginning, like seeing the public reaction, seeing people's takes and excitement grow with each successive like trailer and announcement, and now we're like on the cusp of finally playing it? Like, as the person in charge and as the star, like, how did that feel for you?
Call me biased, but I think in hindsight, how they've sold 16 is almost been pitch perfect in the distance between
really
the trailers
has.
and that there was that, when the Game Awards trailer happened, I stayed up and watched it because it was like 4 a.m. here in the UK, and I knew it was going to go out, but I didn't know it was going to be right at the end. So there was me downing margaritas.
You had the
at 3
same Game Awards experience as the rest of us.
Yeah, I did.
When will this fucker end?
It was a long one, but I did enjoy it. I was like, oh, there's some really fun. I mean, Hades too. Come on, I'm excited.
Right.
Less Christopher Judge for extending that out.
I thought. So a friend of mine, Charlotte McBurney, was nominated for A Plague Tale, and so we've got like a fun little voice actors WhatsApp group with lots of like people on it, and everyone was going, go Charlie, and so she was on screen. Then there was Al Pacino, and then there was Christopher Judge, and then it was like still going, and it was just the most anarchic thing I'd ever seen.
I forgot about Al Pacino.
For a bit, we all dissociated. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was an out-of-body experience as I was watching it, because I was going so well. I was so nervous that the revenge trailer was going to happen, so I'm already anxious. And then it's Al Pacino. What? And then Christopher Judge wins. That's fine. We all knew that was going to happen. And then wait, it's 8 minutes and it's still going on, and I didn't know what to do. My
nobody did. Everybody was like, "Is this happening right now?"
Al Pacino didn't know. He was just standing off to the side the whole time, like
Pacino.
I've got to say, testament to the qualities of Chris Judge and the respect that everyone has for him as an actor and a person and a personality, that like they let him do it, because at the end of the day, what that man has done for this medium and what he's done for performance, just what an absolute dude. So yeah. Give him 20 minutes, it's fine. I'll let him talk.
Also, at least there was a bunch of time dedicated to someone that actually was part of a video game for once. So
yeah, true. Well, but I've obviously like taken us off on a little tangent, but yes, I think leading up
that's
to
what
it
we do.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I just didn't want to feel like, oh, Ben's just taken us off on a tangent.
Oh no, that's the entire
way.
You Christopher Judged us, and I don't.
Got him. So yes, I think they've really done an amazing job of getting the hype up for this game, because it's kind of snuck up on a lot of people, I think, because where it's appeared at certain PlayStation events where there are also other exciting announcements, and then suddenly you get these people watching them. This looks really good. Oh my god! And I think the beats and how they've eked out some of these story moments, it's really interesting, because you see I sit there and watch everyone hypothesizing about it and seeing how wrong people are, but it's really it's been really interesting, especially when it got to when they shadow dropped the Ambition trailer, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, that was so hype, man. Oh my god, when they start naming off all the summons as part of the song at the end. That got me pumped up.
It's just, I think each trailer represents something different, and yet doesn't give away what the story is at all. And
that I think is one of my favorite things that you don't get very often in big story-based games, is that I don't think any of these trailers are giving away anything major.
I feel like I know next to nothing, and I couldn't be more excited about that fact.
I'm going to give you full credit for that, Ben.
Thank you. I listen. They came to me and they said, "Ben, how do we do this?" And I said, "Let's just sit down. It's going to be 4 trailers. It's going to be spread them out." What I didn't really notice, because I'm in the game. all the time. And I didn't realize how little people knew about Clive because of how actually he wasn't really represented. He's eked in, and we get this real sense of like they're trying to build the world up and show you how big this world is and the epic journey that you're going to go on. And it's been really interesting that by the time that we got to the Revenge trailer, people were going, oh my God, it's actually nice to hear Clive or see what Clive's more of about. But now, obviously I know everything about him, so I'm just going, why wouldn't you know that? But it's great that actually now in this most recent trailer, which is a lot more about Clive and what his wants are or needs are, it's been interesting to see, and I think I'm really glad that you don't know what's going to happen because it's a.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ben. Please, no. I didn't mean to cut you off. You would cut off on me for a minute. I thought you were done. My bad.
No, it's fine. I think it's such a journey. I think when I said, "Oh, I'm playing Clive," I said, Yoshi-P said this is a roller coaster, and he's absolutely right. Yeah, and it really is. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I actually have a question about that. So when you got the role, like for one, Final Fantasy, love it. Like two, when you found out you were going to be working with Yoshi-P, like one of the most beloved creators in gaming industry, like. How did you learn about that? And did you ever get like some alone time with him, like one-on-one time, or how did that process work? If I can ask.
Yeah, you can ask. I would say they would probably not let me talk about it, but I will say that my answer is that I went in. I didn't know who I was going to be working with at the time because everything is just so NDA. Like I had to sign so many things to say I'm not going to talk about this, and because of all the restraints of everything of recording, that recording shifted all the time, and like how we were recording the whole thing. But my main point of contact through the whole thing was Michael Christopher Koji Fox, and Koji was my man the whole time. He was the guy who would be that we have like check-ins every now and again and just like nerd out about games. He's the one when we were recording it, he was like, oh, it's Disco Elysium, we've got to play Disco Elysium. So like we just nerd about Elden Ring and just like talked about all the games we were playing all the time to kind of like take a lot of the heat off because it is a lot of pressure.
Oh,
it's quite intense, but he was so good and was kind of my go-between with Square and everything. So I'd say that's the person who at Square anyway was like my man, and he was the guy who really was like, come under my wing, Ben. You will be absolutely fine. And do that. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's been so lovely. And I played A Realm Reborn when it first came out. And I haven't played Heavensward yet. So I have a feeling I might start again and I might like build like Clive in the game. And
that would be legit. That would be legit. Ultra server, if you're not on there already, you okay. Obviously Ultra server. But also, speaking of building up Clive, I've got to ask, Clive Rosfield cosplay, like is it happening and when is it happening?
I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's 100% happening. As soon as I saw a picture of him, I was just like, yeah, I'm cosplaying as this guy.
Yeah, you could absolutely pull that off. Yeah, 100%.
I don't know when. If there are any amazing cosplay makers out there, just get in touch. Let's make it happen. But
I know people. Really I can get you in contact. Let me know if you actually want it to happen.
I genuinely wanted to happen. It wasn't just me kind of like baiting people, being like,
I have lots of friends that are professional cosplay, like crafts people. So I don't know. So I have a question that is not related to Final Fantasy 16, related to acting, but more just you specifically in the region you come from. This is more just a fun one. One of my favorite trends in Hollywood is that they increasingly cast British people in American roles because all British people seem to have uncanny American accents. Does Ben Starr have an American accent?
He does.
Hit me with something.
I'm not going to hit you with anything because I want to kind of tease you out, but I can do such a great American accent. No, I would say that actually when I first started in this industry, I pretty much principally played American characters. My first ever play out of drama school was a play called Yellowface, which is a brilliant play by David Henry Hwang, which is about basically racism and about the idea of yellowface, and it's a really amazing play in response to kind of this race row that happened over Miss Saigon. And I played an American person in it, and we went to the National Theatre in London and performed it, and lots of people just didn't know that I was English because I just spent so much time in it. I think at the time my girlfriend said I woke her up in the middle of the night speaking in an American accent because I'd just spent so long doing it. But I think it's a requirement now. It's almost like as an actor, you just have to have, because there's just so much work out of America that you just do it. And because we are exposed to so much American media, you know, most English people sing in an American accent because that's what we hear. We hear American.
That's
pop
true.
music.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
That's a very interesting point. I mean, I have an amazing British accent, so I
No,
just
you
didn't
don't.
know if
There's
it was
no
crossed over. I mean, don't you just drop the
Don't do
T's a lot? Like, oi, bruv, you know?
Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you.
Finn-
Nailed it.
Finn,
Thank you. You know what?
Finn,
It's cool.
you are the
Finn.
cringiest man on earth, Finn. Although I will say that I think the only, you know, like, and this is just an aside, the only European singer I've ever heard that you can tell, like, okay, this person is from Ireland, is Dolores Riordan, from the Cranberries. She was always like, she was always like, oh yeah, she's very clear. She had such a unique voice. But I actually wanted to, I don't know why I thought of that just now. I love
Also,
the
let's just give a
Cranberries.
shout out to the Cranberries. My God, just
I love the
bangers.
Cranberries are one of my favorite bands. But
in the UK, so I know we're getting distracted, but in the UK, they have this thing. We had this show called Top of the Pops that ran for years.
oh
and
yeah, I
they-
know Top of the Pops.
and they don't run it anymore really because streaming and everything just kind of made it so that it couldn't really happen. So now in the UK we still have these old reruns of things of like Top of the Pops through the years, and one of them was just focusing on the Cranberries, and it was just the most amazing thing. And I liked their music, but I just didn't know much about them. And you're going, God, they produced some absolute bangers in the 90s. Like,
They absolutely did. Dreams and Linger are two of my favorite songs.
Rest in
God,
peace.
yeah, I miss her.
Mm.
Well, so I kind of want to tie it all together here to kind of close this out. I wanted to kind of loop back to something Ben had intimated at earlier, in regards to, like, the games of our past, and, like, how we all got into this, like, and really I've said this before, but I just want to reemphasize it. I truly believe that the things we love, like, it's only 50% that thing. It's only 50% that thing. The other 50% is the time when we found it, the time in our lives when we came across that thing. I needed Final Fantasy VI. At that moment in my life is when I needed something like that. And had I not been going through what I was at the time, it may not have stuck with me or resonated with me in the way that it did. And so I think it's really interesting. I think it's really interesting to think about the fact that, the things we love, like Final Fantasy for all of us, is really just a series of circumstances. Like the right thing came along at the right time. And I feel that same way about what we're doing here right now. We're doing all these great things that we love. Ben, you're doing something that you love. We're doing something that we love and have a great passion for, and it's all because of a set of circumstances. And I think we are all so lucky to have been kind of put on the path that we are now. And so, Ben, I just want to say, really from all of us, congratulations on landing this role. You clearly deserve it. And it's so nice to see, like, it's so nice to see, it's so nice to see this not just happen to a good person, but to a person who has a deep and appreciative love for the actual franchise that you're now a part of. And going forward, you will always be associated with Final Fantasy. And I think that is just an incredible thing. And we could not be happier for you.
100%.
Thank you. It's a thing. And I think I really appreciate what you said about, Six saving your life. I think that I'm so keenly aware of people's relationships with games or films or music, but games in particular, finding them at the time that you need them and them allowing you to, they don't just exist on the TV or in your hand or whatever. They exist so much more outside of that because they help us kind of maybe comprehend what it is that we're going through at the time. They make us kind of more keenly understand how we're feeling about certain situations. And I think that this series in particular enabled me to have a clearer understanding of certain things. I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say this now anyway, because we're all sharing. But a year ago, I lost my dad. He died. And it was during during the making of this game. And this game saved my life, because it was this moment where he passed incredibly suddenly. It was all hands on deck, and how did I get over that? That was going back to this game and working on it and taking on everything that I was feeling about it and placing it into Clive. And hopefully you when you experience it, you will see what that is and what that means to me. And I think that there's so much of myself in this character and everything that I was going through. And also, if anyone's listening who was working on it with me, thank you, because everyone was just incredible, absolutely incredible. Amazing. And supportive. But yeah, it saved mine. And I think that it's an amazing franchise that only over time will mean even more to me. And the fact that there has already been so much love from the community, the fact that you guys got in touch and were like, let's hang out and talk about Final Fantasy, even though you haven't even really heard me. I could be terrible in this game. I could be
doubt that.
Willing to bet otherwise.
I somehow doubt that. In fact, now that I'm playing this, I'm instead of like, that's Clive, I'm gonna be like, oh, hey, it's Ben.
I know,
like, hey, look, listen, it's Ben.
Yeah.
I'm gonna name.
I know that guy.
Rename it.
I'm gonna name him Starry 2.
I honestly, through the whole recording process, I kept saying to Koji, can we just rename one of the characters Starry, or just rename one of the enemies Starry? Just as a little thing for me. And he went, no, Ben, that's very narcissistic of you.
Well, I got to tell you, Ben, thank you. That was an incredibly touching and personal story. I am so honored that you felt comfortable enough to share it with us. So thank you for that. Seriously. And thank you for this. Thank you to Ben. Thank you to Square Enix for allowing this to happen. We were gonna rank the Final Fantasy games. We just didn't have time. But Ben, we would love for you to come back and not even talk about 16. Let's just rank the Final Fantasy games. Starting from 6 on down.
Yeah, 6 down.
We
6, 8, 9.
We could just
I was
let's play 6 at the top. It's all
Yeah.
it's all the Final Fantasy games that are worse than 6, and that's what it'll be. It'll be like 6 at the top. And then,
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Put a little spice on it. Yeah.
I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that. No, Ben, thank you again so much. If people want to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much the same I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I'm _Ben_Starr with 2 R's. That's who I am. So come and say hi. Everyone's been so welcoming so far. Yes, please do come and follow me. It'll be fun. Let's go on a journey together.
Excellent. Ben, thank you again.
Absolutely a pleasure to talk to you.
Absolutely. And hopefully it's not the last you'll see of Ben here on SDGC. I know it's not the last you'll see of us. So until then, take care of each other.
I've got bad news for you, John.
Am I being let go?
We wanted your last thing to be.
Am I being forced out? Am I being forced out of the podcast I started?
So Ben's actually going to be replacing you. So
Yeah.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine.
Ben is
fine,
the new John.
Yeah.
That's
We'll
fine.
send you beanies. Don't worry.
You got to get beanies.
I was grooming myself to be your replacement, obviously, but I just think Ben's a better fit.
I feel
agree.
that too. I feel like you've been really dragging this podcast down, John. It's time for me to step up.
This is bigger for you than Final Fantasy 16 even. I mean,
this is the reason I got the part in the first place, is to come in. This is an elaborate.
Absolutely, to usurp me.
We're actually renaming SDGC to the Starry Deluxe Games cast.
Oh wow, that's good. Okay, Finn, finally, you did a good one. No, he did a good one, Derek. That was good. All right, everybody. Take care of each other. Remember, kindness costs nothing. We'll see you later.